What I want to talk to you guys today about is inspiring faith. I want to share my Bible times that I've kind of just been reading in the morning. I want to share my quiet times with you guys. And today, we're going to look at how faith can inspire us and how it's really powerful.
Come on, bro.
But first, what is faith? Well, Hebrews 11 verses 1 says, "Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." Faith is what you literally cannot see and believe it's going to happen. Therefore, no one who is not optimistic cannot have faith. And no one who doesn't dream cannot have faith, because it's these people that God will not work through. Faith is failing, and it's then looking like things aren't going to happen, but still believing it will happen, regardless of how impossible the situation seems. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at Hebrews chapter 11. We're just going to stick to that. And we're going to take a look at what it looks like to have faith. My first point is, from God to Noah. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 2 to 7. This is what the ancients were commended for. By faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. By faith, Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. By faith, he was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offspring. And by faith, Abel still speaks, even though he is dead. By faith, Enoch was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. And without faith, it's impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear, built an ark to save his family. By his faith, he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness that is keeping with faith. So these were the ancients from a long, long time ago, a bunch of old people. Okay, a bunch of really, really old people. But first, we see that these guys were commended for their faith. After all, with nothing around, no evidence other than what others have said, or what this person said, what that person said. They just believed in God. There was no evidence back in the day. There was no Google. I'm typing up in Google and finding out, hey, is this God real? What's the evidence? There was none of that. Right. It was just, I believe in God just because. Wow. If you want to talk about faith, would you still believe in God if there wasn't a Bible? They didn't have one. You see, this is what faith is. It's going to the extreme about what you believe in because you simply believe.
Right.
Do you believe? There's many people that take it to the extreme. There's many radical groups out there that take things to the extreme. And yet you see Christianity today.
Right.
How many people take it to the extreme anymore? Hey bro, you're a Christian. It's like, I'm almost afraid to say that I am. Or I'm almost afraid to say, and we've got people talking about pride out here, but there's no pride for Christianity. It's like what happens. You see, God made the world out of nothing that was visible. I thought that was pretty cool. Because imagine that. He made something out of nothing. Nothing was there. How can you believe in such a thing that long ago? You're nuts! That's what you call faith. And now that we understand, come take a seat, guys. Come on in, come on in, come on in.
Martin.
Come on in.
Hi.
Come on in. We're talking about faith right here.
Come on, bro.
Hebrews 11, amen. And now, that's what you call faith. Now that we understand things like particles, matter, all these different things, that makes up everything. You see, these things are indiscernible to our eyes. You actually can't see any particles, you can't see matter. And so what's great about the Bible scriptures right here is the Bible talks about particles and matter. We only found that out less than 100 years ago.
Come on, bro.
And we have this evidence that these things exist. And yet, still struggle to believe. Still struggle to believe. And what I found is I've studied the Bible with, I'm not even kidding, like I would say about maybe 1,000, 2,000 people. It's proven God's real. And the problem is never ever evidence. It's always here. It's always here.
It's true.
And it comes from a lack of faith. Where's your faith at today? Do you need to see the miracles to believe in them? I think everything around you is a miracle. It's all made up of what is invisible. This flat thing right here is made out of what is invisible. Like literally. If you zoom in into the particles, it'll eventually have like little bits of space in between it. You can't actually see it. You can't see. That's a miracle. You're just blind and you don't want to see the miracles around you. Let's talk about Abel. Now that we talked about God right there. Now Abel was faithful. Abel was known to be one of the most important people when it comes to giving to God. You know Cain and Abel, right? He was the first person to give God the first of everything you had. That's who he was. And being selfless, it was a very faithful thing to do. It was a faithful act to give the first of what you had.
Right.
Well, what the heck? Solomon, help me understand. What does that have to do with faith? Giving just giving. What does that got to do? Everything. It's got everything to do with faith. Absolutely everything. When I think about someone who really, really gave with faith, this is a man in the States that I know, and my wife actually, I believe, lived with for a while, Michael Kirshner. Michael wasn't just any old man. He was a CEO of a company, very big company called General Mills. Is that right?
Yeah.
General Mills. And he was, like I said, a CEO, and his stake in the company was about, and they asked him to stay, was about 280 million American dollars, USD. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And they asked him, he was struggling with his marriage and struggling with just his faith, and he goes, you know what? Me being out here, not where the church actually is making me really, really struggle. And I don't think I can be a Christian out here. I'm going to give it all up. $280 million. Just because he didn't have his church next to him. Wow. Would you do the same?
Wow.
That's radical. That's radical. You see, unless you have faith in God to be able to provide for you, no matter what, or how unlikely the circumstances seem, you simply can't say one of these two things. You believe in God, and you can't say you have faith. If you're willing to go out of a limb and just go, let me drop it and go, because I believe God's going to take care of it. You can't say those things. You've got to be willing to give your whole heart to God. I'm reminded of what Jesus said in Mark chapter 12, verses 28 to 30. It says, one of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noticing that Jesus had given them a good answer, he asked him, of all the commandments, which is the most important? The most important one, answered Jesus, is this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. He knew it was a whole heart thing. It was like, love God with all of your heart.
Yeah.
That's where it was at. You got to give God your whole heart. Otherwise you can't say you believe in God. You can't have faith unless you're willing to give God your whole heart. That's what Abel did. For him to still be speaking, it actually shows us the impact of one's faith in giving to God. Well, hang on a second, bro. I thought he's dead. Why is he still speaking? Well, imagine still being talked about today because you simply showed your faith. Thousands of years ago. I mean, think about it. You go around in Brisbane, right? You go to South Bank. You just watch people walk past. Their life is just a mess. They come and they go. Nothing of significance. 3 generations, their whole entire family will forget them. And that's their life. but not for Abel. But people are still talking about him today because of his faith.
Wow.
Would your faith say the same thing?
Oh,
But what's interesting is that even though he gave his first fruits to God, he was then killed for it. You think God would flat take care of him? He was killed for it. Yet he lives. You see, in God's eyes, regardless of what happens to you, God will work despite your circumstances as long as you put him first.
wow.
As long as you put him first. Yes! You might suffer. Yes, you will suffer. But not for long. As God will take care of you, even if you get killed for it. Now let's take a look at Enoch. Enoch's one of my favorites. I love Enoch. And I'll tell you why. He was an extraordinary case. He was built different. I like to built different. You see, Enoch was a man credited to be righteous all the days of his life. That's what's said about him. He was just a good dude who always did good. That's what they say. It mentions that for Enoch, he had great faith. And it's also impossible to please God any other way. It's impossible to please God without faith. So if it's impossible to please God without faith, you've got to imagine, Enoch probably had some real big faith right there. Because he was one that pleased God. Did you realize, if you don't have any faith, you're never going to please God in your life?
Wow.
You're just a faithless person that just kind of walks around life and God's like, what are you doing? Get it together, mate. Pull yourself together.
Come on.
That's what he was. After all, we understand Enoch pleased God, therefore he had great faith. Are you pleasing God today, or does your faith, like God just looks at you, he's like, what are you doing? And he does this. He rolls his eyes. His faith just, God just wants to roll his eyes at you because of your lack of faith. You see, Enoch's faith went as far as being taken up to heaven while he was still alive. You see, Enoch was, like I said, built different. He didn't think like everyone else. He goes, oh yeah, you guys believe you're going to die? Yeah, not me. Yeah, maybe you. Yeah, you'll die on this earth. No, my faith's just not there. I just don't think like you. I'm not dying like you. Maybe that's the reason he was taken up to heaven from earth, and we won't be. Because he had that kind of faith. You ever thought like that before? Probably not, right? And that's why he didn't, that's why he went. Amen. But do you think like Enoch? Do you think like him? You see, this kind of faith is something to behold, and it's greatly rewarded. Perhaps the reason there is no miracles in your life is because there's no faith in your life. So why would God reward a lack of faith? How does that glorify him? How does that make him look great? It doesn't.
Yeah.
There's no faith there. You see, when you have extraordinary faith like Enoch, extraordinary faith, perhaps you too can be taken up to heaven. And you go, mate, alright, now I've heard it. This guy's a loony. Now he's crazy. Now he's crazy. I'm not crazy. That's what faith is. Faith is crazy. Does that make sense? Faith is nuts. This guy was nuts. He was crazy. But unless you change your mind and start believing in this kind of faith, then your faith is dead. So start living like you have Enoch kind of faith. Y'all want to hear the word today?
Yeah.
Did you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Mark chapter 9, verse 23.
Come on, babe.
If you can, Jesus said, everything is possible for one who believes.
Come on.
Out of all the people who were taken up to heaven, it was only Elijah, Enoch, Jesus that ascended to heaven from earth. What does that tell you about these people? These were the masters of faith and believed it would be this way. It's no coincidence that these three were the only people who did it. It had everything to do with where their faith is at. Where's your faith at? Then lastly, of the ancients, we have Noah in the ark.
Come on, Noah in the ark.
Yeah, he's a great representation of a man who persevered because of his faith in God.
Yeah.
Did you know it took Noah 75 years to build the ark? No rain, but 75 years to build it. Imagine building it. You're 10 years in, you're like, was it quite coming in? Keep it going. 75 years, that's a lifetime for all of us. We'd be dead. A lot of people aren't even making it to 75.
True.
Yet despite the people, you can imagine people would have been like, what are you doing, Noah? Just give up, you idiot. Come on, get your senses together. What are you building this thing? They didn't know what a boat was. They're like, what are you building? He's like, well, God says, I've got to do this. And you're nuts. Your family's nuts. You're all nuts. And yeah, he still decided to have faith. Because he didn't start till a couple of years later. That what God said 120 years ago, because he was an old man, it would happen.
Right.
In holy fear, God made him heir to all mankind. That he was going to be like the guy that was like, the offspring. Imagine you being the last person on earth. And then you're going to repopulate the whole world. That's you. Leslie, you're it. That's who you are. That's a responsibility.
Yeah.
You see, when you fear God, that's faith because you grasp how very real God is and the power that he actually holds.
Right.
You see, before this time, it never reigned. This was actually the first time. Like, that's why I was reading. People were shocked when it started coming out from the heavens. They were like, what the heck is actually going on? But he knew it would. He knew it was going to happen. He also understood how powerful God is, and now that we need to grasp just how big he actually is. Like, I'll help you guys understand how big God actually is.
Come on.
Now, I think the earth is very big.
Yeah.
You say,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You walk around Brisbane, you go for a long walk, that's pretty long. And then we drove here from Sydney, that was 9 hours. That felt flat long.
Yeah,
That was
You know how long it would take you to sail around the world just in a boat? About 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years to sail around the world. Just the earth. Now imagine that, the size of that magnitude. Now, that's the earth. Did you know you can fit 1.3 million Earths inside the sun? That's how big that is. And I can tell you what, you got the Earth, here's the sun. Get the sun down to this small, you've got planets that are even bigger. That are like that. It's nuts. The sun's a big star, and it's a very, very small star compared to other stars. And with 2 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy, and over 2 trillion galaxies in the universe, as it continues to expand, you can start to see how small we are and how great God is.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I was Noah, I'd probably fear God. This fear and understanding of God, of what was not yet seen, produced faith in Noah to actually do something about it.
Come on.
A lot of us just need to do something about the situation that we're actually in and actually put our faith into action. You see, God wants to do things in your life, but where's your faith at when it comes to this? Do you believe that your faith is actually going to work? Better yet, what are you doing about it to show that you actually have faith?
Right.
I think about when we came to, I was challenged by this, and it comes in the little things. It always comes in the little things. I was getting my car on the road to transfer it from a New South Wales license over to a Queensland license. And so we came over to the Roadside Maritime Transport Department, and we came over and we're like, okay, we've got all our documents from last time, because last time it didn't work out. We're now ready to get it all sorted. And they said, I'm really sorry, the systems are down. You're gonna have to come back another day. And then Mex and I are walking out, and I'm like, I thought to myself, I'm preaching a lesson on faith tonight. This would be really stupid if I just walked out right now. And so I turned back, I said, I'll get a ticket, I'll wait, and we'll see what happens. We ended up getting called to the counter, and the lady's processing Megan's driver's license, and she goes, oh, the systems are down. Hang on a second. They just came back. Right then and there. We're like, man, that's faith.
Let's go.
Just expecting God's word, even in the little things.
Come on.
Even in the little things.
Let's
Yeah.
go, bro.
Because unless we action our faith is dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got faith, this church is going to grow. Like I said, you see like a small little room. Alright?
Come on.
We're seeing small little room in Sydney. That's how it started out. It's quite a small room. About 12 people. Well, that ended up, I think it's now, what is it? It's like 6 9 churches now. 9 churches over the last 8 years. Give it 10 years over here, I'm pretty sure we won't just be in a little small room. I think we'll hire out a hall. At least I think so. I got faith that this city will be turned around and it will change. But I got faith that not only does it start with me, but it also starts with you. It starts with you. Is your faith dead today, and what are you going to do to change it? James chapter 2 verse 17. In the same way, faith by itself, if it's not accompanied by action, is dead.
Come on.
That's what the Bible says.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at our second point. The great faith of Abraham to Sarah. So Hebrews 11 verses 8 to 19. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went. Even though he did not know where he was going, by faith, he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him in the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. And by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she was considered him faithful, who had made the promise. And so from this one man, and he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as stars in the sky, and as countless as sand on the seashore. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They didn't receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they're looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. By faith, Abraham, when God tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. He who embraced the promises was about to sacrifice his one and only son. Even though God had said to him, "It is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned." Abraham reasoned that God could even raise the dead. And so, in a matter of speaking, he did receive Isaac back from the dead. Abraham, one of the great founders of the Jewish people, was full of faith. All of his descendants would later come from him and turn into a nation, henceforth calling him Abraham. So he went from Abram to Abraham from that point on. So when God called Abram to go into another land that he would later receive as an inheritance, this was a massive leap of faith. I would say that's an understatement. This is because when you leave your home and you go out in faith, it's a big leap of faith because you don't know what could happen to you. You don't know if you're going to get the job. You don't know if you're going to get the house. You don't know what's actually going to happen.
Yeah, it's true.
All the dangers you could probably face. Now, try and do that. But do it without being told where you're going to go. But you just got to go.
Oh.
You go, where do I go? Go that way. Okay. Which city? Just go that way. You'll figure it out. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Maybe you could probably do it if you knew where you were going. Maybe. But just being told to go that way, you'd be like, what the heck?
Yeah.
You'd say, that's crazy.
Yeah.
What the heck? Is it though? Is it crazy? Or is that just faith right there?
Yeah.
Or is that just faith? He made his home in a foreign land. Imagine permanently moving to a foreign country and now calling that your home. Some of you guys have moved in from a different country and have come here.
Hello.
I remember just leaving to come to Hong Kong myself with both Megan and I. We went to Hong Kong. It was a very different area. It was very, I don't know, like I went to the States and I thought that was quite different. But we went and we stepped into Hong Kong. I was like, oh boy, this is like very, very opposite. Here I am from Gold Coast to Brisbane. We barely do much and we're very, very chill. Here in Hong Kong, everyone's fast paced, go. I'm like, this is a very different country. Even to a point, I think Megs went to go to a grocery store, and we're like, oh, we'll get breakfast and make it for everyone. She walks into the store, and she goes into the grocery store, and all the things are just all in China. She goes,
I cried.
I don't know what to do. But she ends up crying on the spot. It freaks you out.
Yeah, come on.
Going into a different place. You would go, if you go out to these to this different country or just to go out and go that way, you'd be nuts. You're going to be out of your flat mind. What the heck is wrong with you? But I'm reminded of what the scriptures say right here in 2 Corinthians 5:13. If we are out of our mind, as some say, it is for God. If we are in our right mind, it's for you. So this land became Abram's home. Now his descendants stayed there in tents, and they never really had a proper house that simply called their tent their home. But he also believed that his descendants would eventually inherit the whole area, even when he died. Now that's faith. It's like you going out to a different country, you're like, yeah, this country is going to be mine soon. And all my offspring, they're going to take it over. People would go, you're flat nuts. I'll walk into like a different area. I'll be walking in Surfers Paradise at the Gold Coast sometime. And my mate would make a joke, oh yeah, I bought this place for $20. And then they'll get into an argument with just some guy for no particular reason. I could imagine that Abraham was probably like that guy. No, I got this place, yeah, it's mine. We'd be like, yours is flat nuts. Look at it now.
Come on, man.
Look at it now. Now let's take a look at his wife, Sarah.
Come on.
She became from Sarah to Sarah, who was supposedly meant to have descendants as numerous as stars in the sky and sand on the seashore. Okay, now I grew up going to the beach. That's a lot of sand.
Come on,
Amen.
Right.
But then go, you're going to have numerous amounts of kids. They're just going to be like populating everywhere. And I say that to an 90-year-old woman. That's stupid. That's nuts. What the heck? But what is that? That's crazy. But faith is crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to be crazy to have faith.
Come on, bro.
Amen. So if you're not crazy, go get crazy.
Amen. Let's go
Go
crazy.
be fired up.
Let's go. Come on, bro.
Faith is like walking into a country like North Korea and believing it's going to be evangelized and a whole bunch of people are going to become Christians.
Wow.
I'll tell you what, you flat walk into that country, you're going to get killed straight away without the right permits. That's just what's going to happen. But that's what faith is. It's nuts.
Yeah.
That's what faith is.
Sure.
So even though Sarah was past childbearing age and considered faithful to God, she believed God would come through. Do you believe God's going to come through for you? Despite the circumstances, despite how impossible things seem. Despite if you turn down a job that pays really, really good, but you know church is on that day.
Come on.
Do you believe that God's going to come through for you? And He's got something even better.
Come on.
Even though they were only told about it and they didn't even physically see it. See, they didn't even get to see it in the end. They welcomed it from a distance to see the miracles happen, admitting that they were only foreigners and strangers on earth. For some, I believe God would be ashamed to be called their God. I can see God go, don't call me your God, man. You don't even live it.
Whoa.
He would say that, but that's not what he actually said about Abraham and Sarah.
Come on.
We know this is true because God would often refer himself to as the God of Abraham. We know that. This home and foreign land called Earth that they lived in was not always going to be their home. That's just how they thought.
Yeah.
But in fact, they longed for a better home. No, I know Brisbane's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of cool things, you know what I mean?
Come on.
But they're like, nah, but we got a better one.
Yeah.
We got a much, much cooler one. But how long do you long for heaven? How often do you long for heaven? Like, I just can't wait to go there. That's where I want to be. And that's where I flat want to be. I hope that's where you guys want to be.
Yeah.
Or have you simply just gotten used to earth and you just don't long for heaven at all?
Wow. Come on, bro.
We'd go out evangelizing in Sydney in this university called the University of Sydney, called it USyd. And I remember this was during the COVID period time, okay? And we had like a bunch of girls and stuff come up and they're filming people and they're doing like little interviews, and I was evangelizing with my friend Joe. And they're doing little interviews and they're like, so what do you think about the COVID pandemic? Are you afraid of dying? He's like, no, I don't flat care of dying. I want to die. They're like, yeah, I want to die. They go, why? He goes, because I know where I'm going. You know where you're going?
Come on. Come on.
Do you know where you're going?
Yes. Oh, no.
It should be something that you're looking forward to. Not something that you're just like, man, like I have to do this. I have to do this.
Right.
One of my most favorite scriptures in Philippians 1 verses 21. To me, to live is Christ.
Yeah.
To die is gain.
Wow.
To live is Christ. To die is gain. It's like, I want to live for God. That's true. But man, if I could die, that would be so much better. That would be so much better. Faith that is little only desires for earthly things, so you can only ask for earthly things. But when your eyes are fixed on heaven, then you're fixed on heavenly things. What are your eyes fixed on today? Do you ask for things from heaven, or do you just ask for simple things on earth below?
Come on.
Wow.
Philippians 3 verses 20 to 21. But our citizenship is in heaven, and we eagerly await a Savior from there, the Lord Jesus Christ, who, by the power that enables him to bring everything under his control, will transform our lowly bodies so that they will be like his glorious body. Now, if you want to show how much faith Abraham had, then just simply look at his faith to sacrifice his son as we wrap it up here. God was testing him to see if he would really trust him and love him. Go sacrifice your one and only son. Just put him on the altar, kill him, and sacrifice him for me. Imagine being told that. Imagine you become a father, or you become a mother, and God goes, go sacrifice your child. Put it on your God. Like, how would you feel? How would you actually feel? Would you do it? Would you do it? If that's what your hopes and dreams were, he just wanted a son. That's what he wanted. That's all he cared for. That's all. Like, he went west, he went that way, and he's like, okay, I finally got a son, and he's an old man. So finally, this is my dream right here. And God's like, go kill your son. If you were told that you were going to have descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and you were told to sacrifice your one and only son, how would you feel? That's literally the ultimate love of any father. To sacrifice their son is the ultimate sign of love and sacrifice. You literally can't get anything that costs more than that. How do I know that? I don't know if anyone here has seen John Wick. Anyone seen John Wick? Alright. So if you watch the very first John Wick, you will find that this son ends up killing John Wick's dog, and he does everything he can to protect his one and only son. He does everything he can. He sends soldiers, and John Wick ends up going after them or whatever. But his love was like, I'm gonna throw everything I have, and I'm gonna sacrifice myself for my son. And so we know that nothing costs more than that. That's something invaluable. It was going to cost Abraham his dream, his future, his heart, and his love. Get out of faith. He still did it. That's faith. That's faith. It was meant to happen through Isaac, that his descendants would come back. Abraham's faith, it wasn't limited to death. He was like, even though I'm going to sacrifice my son, I still know, God, you're gonna make this all happen. Even though I'm an old, frail man, I'm about to die any day. You're still going to make it happen.
Come on.
He believed that God had the power to resurrect people. Do you believe that your faith will see people get resurrected?
Amen. Come on, bro.
I think about this one incredible sister. Her name's April Baker. And April was the wife of RD, great friends in Los Angeles. And she was always having a bit of heart problems. And then it came to a point where she actually died. She just died on the spot. And Artie didn't know what to do with himself. He watched her die. His wife just died on the spot. It's just like, what do you do? So he gets on his knees and just starts praying to God. 4 minutes later, she comes back to life. Do you have faith that you can resurrect people or allow God to do it? Do you have that kind of faith? You see, unless you're willing to have faith like this, what kind of faith do you have? John 11 verses 25 to 26. Jesus said to her, I'm the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die, and whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this? In conclusion, guys, inspiring faith. Do you have faith like the ancients that never even had a Bible, but they still believed? Point number 2. Do you believe that God will come through for you even if you died? Do you believe that God will still come through for you and make it all happen for you even if you die? I want to leave you guys with a challenge. I want to challenge everyone here to have inspiring faith that God will work this year and the next year, because this year's not over yet,
Come on.
to work regardless of your challenges or situations that you're facing. As Alistair comes up to lead us in one last song, I want to read just one last poem for you guys.
Come on, babe.
It says, stand in faith, even when you can't see your way. Stand in faith, even when you feel like you can't face another day. Stand in faith, even when the tears want to flow from your eyes. Stand in faith, knowing that God will always provide. Stand in faith, even when you feel like all hope is gone. Stand in faith, knowing that He is there for you to lean on. Stand in faith, even when you feel like giving up. Stand in faith because He said He is there, saying, just look up. Stand in faith, even in those times you feel so all alone. Stand in faith, hold on and be strong, for He is still on the throne. Stand in faith, even when it's hard to believe.
Yeah.
Stand in faith, knowing that He can change your situation suddenly. Stand in faith, even in those times you feel like it's hard to pray. Stand in faith and believe that He has already made the way. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So stand in faith because you already have the victory. Amen.
Yeah.